26th of October. Here it's 10:48 in France, and I improvise a video for a few dozens of minutes, let us say, about the United States of America and the English-speaking world. I published many videos on various channels in English over the years. I started in 2019, Cultural Hegelianism, then I stopped at the end of 2019 and I restarted Cultural Hegelianism in 2022 at the end of February, and then I started a French channel, mostly in French, Phénoménologie de l'Esprit and Eternal Light. And I have shared most of my intellectual, psychological, spiritual development, almost all my documents. I've said contradictory things, I've made countless errors, mistakes, I've revealed many aspects of myself, negative aspects, embarrassing aspects, etc. Positive ones also, maybe. And I have come to a point recently where I realized that one of the reasons why my channels were not successful, first because I didn't try to make them successful at all cost, one might say, because I try to keep a certain sense of rigor, one might say, and even my lack of rigor, maybe my improvised video, they still obey a certain sense of the duty, I don't know, but I've understood that in order to be more intelligible, I had to let go of the very rigid structure of the system and to express myself clearly. That's why in the recent video I no longer plan, or very rarely, because I have already shared the architecture of what I call the process of God, and I no longer fill in the blanks or try to complete. I mean, I do this a few minutes, but I do not do this systematically and rigorously, because either others will do it, or I will do it myself later, or I won't do it, because I've understood that my UPS, Universal Particular Singular, I've kept talking about this in some of my recent videos and even older ones, and I realized that the singular is me, Luca Goetz, that's my name, what I called my empirical self. Actually, I have a name, and the reason why I haven't been able to reach an English-speaking audience, or the people that I intentionally try to talk to, is because I have this relationship. I have tried to unconsciously and then consciously to escape from France, not geographically or physically, although I did this in 2019. I tried to escape to go to the official Germany, but through my mind and my spirit and my videos, I have tried constantly, I don't know, but constantly I have tried to escape from France to reach the whole world, actually, through the English language, because thought expressed through the medium of language is universal, but I do not think of everyone when I speak, not always at least. Mostly I think of the English-speaking population of the Western world, one might say. But I have tried unconsciously to escape, to flee away intellectually through my mind, my spirit, my videos, in the English-speaking world. And whenever I've tried to talk to Americans, they have escaped from my attempt. So that's the same relationship, and I've understood recently that I cannot convince anyone other than myself of what I call my truth or my worldview if I do not convince myself first. And I cannot give any piece of advice or any teachings to anyone else if I am a student, and if I'm a student, I cannot teach to others, or if I am a teacher, I cannot teach to others if I do not apply my own teaching to myself. Which means, in ordinary language, I've understood recently that I have to become my own American. If I want to talk to the Americans, if I can or can't, but anyway, I have to become my own American. And this is part of growing up, letting go of the role models. America is not always a role model, but it's a country worthy of respect in many regards. And I've understood that I have to become my own American, namely to make my own revolution, which begins, thanks to Peterson and others, and Charles Murray and Ron Paul, etc., it begins by an inner revolution, try to put order within one's mind, one's soul, one's immediate environment. That's the first step, and then to put order on a broader scale. But that's an inner struggle as of now. And I've understood that I cannot fix or solve any of the world's problems if I cannot fix my own problems first. And I have been tormented over the past few weeks by ordinary reality. I mean, I live in this apartment 22 hours a day, but the 2 hours broadly where I go out, these are the most exhausting morally, emotionally, because I encounter my own contradictions in the forms of the fact that I am forced. I haven't been forced, but I have constantly lied not by lying directly, but by not telling the truth. Not telling the truth is already a lie, but then the truth is a process. But I cannot speak the truth in a sense to a random person because it would be too long. But I have lied and deceived and manipulated consciously or unconsciously to my empirical surroundings while trying to express the truth universally on the internet, which is a contradiction between the universal and the singular. And I have understood recently that I have to solve this contradiction, namely to speak the truth means to speak the truth equally for everyone in whatever circumstances. Of course, the truth is a totality, but when I say I am the whole of reality, I express this on the internet to very few followers as of now, subscribers or people who watch my videos, but eventually I cannot be at peace with myself or with the world or with anything or anyone if I cannot express my truth consistently. But then, of course, depending on do I speak 2 minutes with a person or 10 minutes, or do I make a 3-hour-long video or an 8-hour-long video? So, of course, that's another problem. That's why, yes, maybe that's subtleties, etc. But it's very difficult to speak the truth. But actually, there are simple levels of truth which are not overly complex, but simply to talk about anthropology, ethnic differences, genetic determinism, sociobiology, to talk about IQ, the difference and the distinction between cognitive abilities between the various people, to talk about crime, to talk about historical events of the 20th century, to talk, to criticize the official people in power, etc. These are moments in the process of truth which have been enabled for me and for many people in the Western world thanks to the freedom granted by the United States of America through their constitution, but also the internet, which is universal, but it's mostly a byproduct of American minds and engineers and entrepreneurship, etc. And without these moments, which are necessary in the process of the unfolding of truth, there can be no spirit as such, no God, because God is the truth, or the spirit of God is the truth. But it has to evolve, to develop, to overcome contradictions, and this has been made possible only because, in my personal case, but actually it's reflected on a wider scale, thanks to the American Constitution, which protects freedom of speech. But with free speech comes responsibility, namely to be judged for whatever one has said or expressed, and to face the consequences. I have said many stupid things, wicked, for various reasons that I do not always understand, but I have said stupid things, and of course I regret many of the things that I've said, but I have not consciously suppressed any video except one at the very beginning of 2022 and those in 2019, but I will not consciously suppress any video. If they get deleted, I haven't said anything illegal, but I've expressed religious views which are controversial, I might say, and I don't need, precisely, I don't need, or maybe I do, but actually I've understood that I don't need to be reminded all of what I've said or thought, or maybe I do, but what I mean is, as long as I can act and speak, speaking is a form of action, I cannot deny, here's what I think, and what I know is maybe true. I will not deny all the things that I've said or not said, thought or not thought, did or didn't do, but so I acknowledge that this is part of my past and my process, but as long as I can act, I will no longer pretend that I haven't said what I've said or done, etc., but I can correct. But the first moment is to accept. That's my Spinozian view, namely, to understand one's own determinism is the first moment. Maybe it's possible to go beyond, but first to understand why one acts the way one acts. Why do people act the way they do? Once it is understood, there is room to slightly change by saying, okay, I have been determined. Here it's in a negative sense, like in a sense of imprisoned. I have been imprisoned by this determinism. I have become aware. They are no longer unconsciously driving my actions, so I can master them by having become aware of them. That's what I've thought, and I still do. So yeah, I owe my intellectual and spiritual life to the material conditions, buying books, an internet connection, leisure, etc. Yeah, but my intellectual and spiritual life, I owe this mostly, overwhelmingly, to the United States of America. I know that I am indebted intellectually and spiritually, because most of the books that have had a profound influence upon me were either written by American authors or Anglo-Saxons, which share the same tradition of inquisitive, inquiring spirit of search for knowledge, rigor, a seeking of the truth, a method. I've been very critical of empiricism, but actually it's methodical and it's kind of rigorous in the perspective of the empirical mind. I cannot deny this, but most of the most important books that have influenced me are written in English, mostly by Americans or Anglo-Saxons or Australians, a little bit of Australians, Canadians or British people, but mostly Americans. The videos that I've watched over the years, since 2016, they have been overwhelmingly in English, by English-speaking persons, either Anglo-Saxons or Americans, or the music that I've listened to, which has had a tremendous influence upon my worldview, the cultural Hegelianism aspect of using pop culture, etc. Most of the artists that I've listened to the most, and still will listen to them as long as I can, they are American. I've made countless videos about this. So yeah, I'll put links to songs that I've been thinking about before making this video. Yeah. And I have tried to sing songs or to quote lyrics in some of my videos, but I've realized that the purpose of having heroes or sources of inspiration, maybe at some moment, is to grow up, and to let go doesn't mean to reject them. That would be a resentment, and I've been partly resentful, and I still am partly resentful, but to not to copy, but to make one's own path in a way. But I'm not a great singer, nor a great actor. Maybe I'm a great actor at some level, but I will no longer sing songs. I've had the intention to sing songs, etc., to use the work of others. I no longer do this. I mean, I quote sometimes, or I draw inspiration, of course, but I've reached a point where I have to make my own path, which leads eventually to death at some moment. But then after death, what is it? Is there a renewal? Precisely, I don't know yet, but another world, I don't know. But in this world, as long as I can act and speak, I have decided to assert my own freedom of expression first, free speech, because I've understood also recently that eventually I have to solve problems. Maybe not all the problems. Maybe it's impossible to solve all the problems, but I have to solve a lot of problems which are my own problems reflected in the world. That's how I envision this. I do not know how it works exactly, but I have to work on myself on a singular level while keep sharing universal knowledge. But I will mostly speak in French on the channel Phénoménologie d'Esprit as long as I can. Maybe I will make other videos on this channel or on another channel or another way of communicating, but I am intelligent enough, I'm not always intelligent, to understand that all the good things, most of the good things, most of the bad things as well in life, they are owed to liberty, freedom of expression, which is the bedrock of intellectual, spiritual life. And I know on a transcendental level that freedom is what enables love. And life, in a way, they are mutually determining one another. Life, liberty, and love, these are the most important things that I've found within reality, and I've understood sometimes one has to be sacrificed for the sake of preserving another. And as of now, I cannot solve any problems, some problems, yeah, but I cannot solve as many problems I would like to if I am not allowed to express myself freely under my own jurisdiction. So that's why I will struggle for as long as I can speak and act and publicly or privately, or I want to become my own American. That's maybe maybe I will fail, but that's what I intend to do. I will become my own American to make my own revolution, to assert my freedom to express myself. That's what I've decided, because eventually problems can be solved through various ways, but one of them is through language, expression, sharing thoughts, communication. And many problems in the world are caused by a lack of understanding or lack of communication, which is either a product of stupidity or a lack of will. I've been guilty of both. Yeah. So that's what I have to say. Also, it's been 20 minutes. I know that the United States of America have been, over the past few years or decade, and still are the country, the singular country in terms of geography and legislation, where the life, the intellectual and spiritual life of spirit is the most intense, the most perfect, in a sense that there are all the aspects, the most living, the most thriving. That's where there are the most contradictions as well, because all the tendencies, all the aspects are found. I've made videos about this, but there are various economic contradictions or tensions or oppositions, ethnic, cultural, partly religious, artistic, scientific, etc. That's the most thriving country in terms of intellect and spirit, and intellect and spirit have been predominant in most of my life. So yeah, I know this is the truth. I know that the ideas, in ordinary sense, which are being uncovered and which develop in the US and in Anglo-Saxon world at large, are universal, namely the science which is being produced daily, weekly, monthly in the US is valid, if it's good science, for everyone, anywhere, at any time. And I've understood precisely that I've understood recently that through the internet, communication is instantaneous. It happens in an instant, and the whole of world knowledge is made available in real time for anyone. And that's what I've understood, that instead of saying to the Americans, hey, look, your mind or your spirit, or world spirit or European spirit or German spirit or whatever is made available in real time, etc. I said I have to apply my own, it's not a teaching, it's my own understanding, namely I will use, as long as I can, the great ideas that I have in my library, in my mind, and on the internet to communicate them, to implement them eventually, and that's how I will start my own revolution. I already have in my personal environment with Peterson, Daisy Luther, Charles Murray, etc., with the educational system. I will no longer expect others to do what I myself haven't done consistently or haven't done sufficiently well enough. I will just use what I've understood. I will become independent, in the sense, partly, and autonomous and smart and self-sufficient. No, that's difficult for now, materially at least, but intellectually, yes. And that's my way of being an American. Yeah. Because when I think about America, I have done a lot of trash talking, I have been disdainful, I have laughed at, I have respected as well, I have admired, and I still do. But if I'm serious, America historically is a country, an institutional country, built by predominantly Anglo-Saxon, Nordic Europeans. They have settled, I know the story with the conflicts, etc., but settled in the wilderness. They have tamed the wilderness and conquered a continent with violence, conflicts, crimes, on both sides. I'm historically literate enough to know this, but eventually it's a self-made country in terms of institutions, which has become the most successful economically, militarily, technologically, culturally eventually. Not always for the good, but yeah. And there have been ups and downs, rise and fall, and rise again, and fall again, and rise again maybe. And God is a self-made entity. The colonists, the settlers, they had the European tradition and the Anglo-Saxon tradition, but the European tradition to create what would become their own country, but with the American Constitution, everyone's country, everyone willing to apply by the ethical, moral, legislative and spiritual standards. In this sense, America is, I've already said, it's a spiritual country populated by people who belong to various modes of consciousness. And that's why I am still sure that Europe, what I call Europe, partly, mostly in a way, in terms of soul and spirit, mostly lives in the US. I know this, the revival of Europe, not as a continent, not as a people, although it's derived from the people which originated mostly in the continent in a chronological perspective, but what I call Europe as a soul or as an idea, or a soul, an idea, a spirit, it's not always clear, but as a soul, what is for me the most precious, lives partly in the United States, and through individuals, the European gods and goddesses, as I call them, through songs, through culture, through institutions, through morality as well, for the better or not so good sometimes. And yeah. So that's what I will attempt to do, to become my own American, as long as I can act, live, breathe, knowing that death has to come eventually, at some moment. Yeah. Whenever I need strength, moral character, temper, I think about the traditional American men, not the modern ones, although there are still models of virtue, but those who build a country, and also the modern American women, in this sense, Caroline and Stella, when I need to assert a sense of moral strength or exert my will for the good or the bad, but mostly the good, let's hope so. I think about you, and this is connected to my personal story, but yeah, American women are the kind of women that inspire me strength and character, which is an aspect that I need to balance, maybe in order to find stability and peace of mind and tranquility. Yeah. And when I knew myself to be the whole of reality 4 years ago, I did not understand what it meant, how it functioned. I still haven't, in this sense, but I tried consciously to meet and to seduce Stella empirically by going to the United States. It failed because of my contradictions or my lack of lucidity or morality, or yeah. And I'm still trying because eventually my ultimate purpose is to find peace. That's the ultimate purpose, but there are various mediations, various steps that I have to go through, and one of them is to be reunited with Stella. Physically, it's not gonna happen, in the sense that I'm not gonna travel to the US, and yeah, but in mind, soul, and spirit, eventually, because I know that Stella, you are the principle of the embodiment of the principle of femininity, and I want you to hear my story from my perspective, and in your perspective as an individual, but I don't know how or when it will happen, but you are really the perfect woman. You were from a perfect world, as Marilyn Manson sings. And yeah. Oh, in this sense, I'm still trying to seduce you. I've just changed the method. Yeah, but eventually the principle which animates you is the one metaphysical principle of femininity. And in this sense, I am sure that it's you that I love, but you as a principle that I have loved or not loved in every woman. Yeah, that's really weird here. That's Evolia and metaphysics, but actually it's metaphysical, let us say. And yeah. The overwhelming majority of the persons, the individuals who have been the most important in my intellectual and spiritual life, which is very important, one might say, are and still are Americans in citizenship, but mostly European or even German in soul or mind. And a lot of the people that I have recognized, whose determination I could explain thoroughly or almost perfectly, or they are Americans. I've made lists, and Lady Gaga and Eminem, Stephanie and Marshall. I have recognized what they represent, and yeah. Yeah. At this moment, it's 11:22 a.m., 26th of October. I still don't know if we, wherever there's a we will be able to understand the world through one another's perspective. I'm talking about all the others. Are the memories, the knowledge, are they stored in some sort of a cosmic mind, in the oneness of all things at some moment, or I don't know. But I think that I've understood a lot about America without ever having set foot on American soil, without having read American history thoroughly, etc. But most of my influences for the good, most of my heroes have been American. I think about Eminem. Then these are not heroes, but mentors or influences. Stoddard has influenced me. Pierce, I have tried and still will try to overcome the problematic aspect, but it has played a strong influence as a mentor. And Ron Paul, Charles Murray, Daisy Luther, Mr. Taylor as well, for the charm and the dedication. Yeah, and then all the inventors, the creators, and of course the empirical individuals who have inspired my worldview. And I admire, have admired Caroline and Michael because of the quality of their intellectual work, because your life is, your intellectual and spiritual life is very similar to mine. That's why I love you so much. That's also why you cause me suffering in a way. But in a way I still look up to you sometimes, or look to you as equals, and very rarely look down. I can be very arrogant, but usually I look either up because of your American aspect, or as equals because of the European pantheon. But I know that we are one mind and spirit and soul, partly eventually, and I want you to hear my story. All the others eventually, but the people that have been so important in my intellectual and spiritual life, I want you to hear my story eventually from your perspective, and to tell somehow, in one way or another, to communicate your full story that I already know because I've listened to you for so long, from my perspective. And yeah, my conscious intention is still to try to implement free speech where I find myself, so that I can communicate in English with the Americans. But it's so complex that if I cannot, or if I don't succeed, or if I am unable to communicate normally, maybe I will communicate differently. That's precisely here I will be honest with myself, because I know it's the truth. After my God experience 4 years ago, I have sought advice from people that I have valued and still value very highly. So in this sense, I've been wise. One could say I've been wise because I said, okay, I don't know really what am I doing here, how does it function, etc. So I have sought advice and help in terms of knowledge and wisdom partly, but with people like Stella, etc., which maybe not, it's not that they were not the right people, but simply the burden or the pressure was not, maybe it's not fair to, yeah. But I've still tried to seek advice, and I've understood recently that actually I cannot, precisely, that's one of the problems, I cannot talk peacefully. As of now, I haven't been able to talk peacefully with the persons that I thought would be able to understand me and to guide me, but precisely I cannot be guided at some level. I have to be my own mentor. But I draw inspiration mostly from Americans, precisely. So I'm a product of America, and maybe America is a product of me, metaphysically. Well, that's one of my best products. Because here I'm in a mood, yeah, but I have gone through rough times, intellectually, emotionally, and I still will go through difficult times, but I have misunderstood myself almost completely, maybe, but also it has enabled me to understand myself a lot, and yeah, I knew the world to be somehow, by a process that I do not understand, an expression, a projection of my consciousness. And since 2018, whenever I thought about this reason in philosophical language, I only thought about the negative aspect, or mostly thought about the negative aspect. So I have blamed myself and hated myself and downgraded myself a lot, very harshly sometimes, fairly, probably because I have very negative aspect, but I have misunderstood that I am not just negative, precisely, and I still fail to understand the relationship between my individual self, the singular, the universal, the consciousness, the objective world, the subject, the object, etc. But if the United States of America, and the whole world eventually, but I think about the US here, exist in my mind, my own American dream, dreams, oh, they can turn into nightmares, etc., etc., but if the American dream is my dream, in a way, eventually that's the kind of truth that I've tried to share, and that is very difficult to share, because in order to convince another person, it requires the ability to express oneself freely, and the intelligence, and yeah, so it's difficult, but as a creative achievement, one might say, the US, but the rest of the world, the universe, but here I talk about the US, is amazing. There are negative aspects, but every time that I thought of myself as having created an external object, for myself, other than my videos, but really created that which was already there, in a way, that's part of the complexity. I thought about Stella in 2018, and later in 2020 about Lady Gaga, in a sense that I understand this reflection, this aspect. But here I'm talking precisely to who? To myself in a way, but I'm still not convinced, but I have to believe in myself because trust regarding God is important. Maybe the Americans will remember this someday. Intellectually, I've understood almost everything except the relationship between the singular and the universal, which I will try to work on. But now I have decided that I have to learn morality, one might say, which means apply my teachings and suffer the consequences, but precisely to accept that suffering and struggle is part of life is not only an American ethos, it's a universal ethos, but yeah. And yeah, I have communicated most of the documents that I thought were relevant in English. Now, as long as I can, I will maybe keep using my documents, but I will speak in French. But precisely what I've understood and what I try to communicate with others, but first I have to understand the idea myself, is that there's only one spirit, a universal spirit, particularized in various modes, various languages, various determinations, determinacies, etc. But eventually, the world spiritually has to be unified, but it has to go through a process of mediation. That's how I envision this. And what I think as of now, is it correct or not? I have made so many wrong, erroneous decisions, but that the libertarian spirit, coming from the Anglo-Saxons, eventually derived from European mentality, can and has to contribute to the unification of the world, because eventually all things have to be reunited or united. And yeah. I have exteriorized a lot of negativity, that which we call evil, in some of my videos, because I have been weak, irresponsible, incompetent, cowardly, wicked, evil in a way. But I have to get rid of my own resentment, because resentment is always negative for the self and for the other. And I have to negate many aspects of myself which are being reflected in the world, but I will use inner struggle and a peaceful resolve of some of the problems which can be peacefully resolved within myself, as long as I can. And one of the first steps is that I have come to realize that I acknowledge that I suffer from psychiatric, psychological, psychoanalytical problems. It can be used as an excuse sometimes. Maybe I have and will, that would be kind of dishonest, but not mentioning some of the problems that reason suffers from would be also dishonest. So I will try to work on my mental sanity. I will try to care and love what is lovable about me, while not faking, in a sense that there are really aspects about myself which are projected in the world somehow that I don't like, and I have to accept one way or another. But as long as I can act, I will try to improve myself, starting on a singular level, but precisely all levels are interconnected, and there are struggles, conflicts, oppositions at all levels. So I cannot, as of now, solve all the problems all at once. That's why I will keep struggling, trying step by step. I don't know how long it will last. Maybe a few hours, a few days, maybe next week, depending on the circumstances. I will still be here, but yeah. I have been calm because I've had some sort of an emotional breakdown before starting the video. But yeah. I've said most of what I had to say. I will, of course, I have plans on the short term to try to implement some of what I consider my best ideas, but I've realized that trying to make long-term plans, reality moves so fast that it's counterproductive, or it backfires, or it's pointless one way or another. So I will work as hard as I can, as long as I can or have to try to I would say not to repay my debts, because I have debts to pay, but to show my gratitude. Sometimes they can be connected, but gratitude is more positive. Repaying a debt through taxation, not by money, but by blood, partly, can be negative. But eventually I have to be grateful to everything eventually. But I'll just conclude by explaining what has driven my decisions. It's I am attracted and I love the United States of America, and I have a negative relationship with France. But I've grown intelligent enough to understand what are some of the underlying features that I have to love what I spontaneously don't like, because it enables me to love what I spontaneously love, in a way. But then it goes into too much complexity, but yeah. I will stop there for now. Maybe I will publish other videos, probably not today, maybe in the coming days, or maybe I won't, but I know what I intend to do. As long as I live, or as long as I experience myself as being alive, I will try to become my own American, not expecting others to follow me, because my path leads, well, to dark places, but I have to enlighten the dark eventually. And as of now, I've understood I cannot appease my own suffering and the suffering of others if I cannot express myself freely, publicly, which implies for me to struggle against my own problems, my own weaknesses, my own vices, my own problems on a singular level, while finding the proper balance, etc. So, yeah, I'm learning to partly let go, not in a negative way, but just to say, okay, I have to confront what I have identified as my problems, which cannot be solved as long as I try to escape from them. So I have to be honest with myself, and I can no longer find any sense of inner peace or joy, but not even peace, if I cannot express myself freely, not in a legislative point of view, but to be able to talk to everyone, empirically or universally. I have to exteriorize my truth. I have reached this point, so I will not use the word God mindlessly or thoughtlessly, but I will have to soon, eventually, to say I am the whole of reality to everyone. I mean, publicly and privately, and to not to justify, but to explain, which requires a lot of work. So the Americans, they are very intelligent. I mean, the average intelligence has declined. That's the truth. But the intelligence produced by the elites, the good elites, the good and the bad, etc., but also what I call American common sense, it's really, on an empirical, individual, singular level, it's one of the highest, if not, it's the most, the life of spirit in terms of intelligence and spirit is the most developed in the US, which means that the Americans, not all of them, but they are intelligent, and in this sense, all other countries in the 21st century in this context are backward with their modern references. And one of the difficulty and the challenges here, that's on the mode of a challenge, is to try to enlighten and to elevate those who are lower by sharing knowledge. I will try to do this. I already have tried, but to steal from the rich, to give to the poor, not in money, but in knowledge. But knowledge, when shared, it does not diminish, it increases. Yeah. Like love, I will not pretend, oh, I love you all, everything. It's not, no, but there are things that I genuinely love, and I will share my light as long as I can. And whatever I have said or thought or didn't say or didn't think, America is brilliant, and I admire many aspects of the US. Eventually I have to admire all the aspects. Admire, no, but no, I have to love all the aspects, but I admire many aspects, and up until recently, and it's still partly the case, whenever I need strength, I think about Eminem and Hegel. My hero. When I talk sometimes about Hegel, I get a little bit emotional. But my hero is still Hegel, and always will be, maybe as long as yeah. But thank you for the inspiration. I wouldn't have understood Hegel for the good without Eminem's songs and then all the other songs, etc. But yeah. I will try to grow up and to be what word will I choose? To be my own American. Let's leave it at that for now. There's enough greatness, goodness, negative aspects in America, but I will try to. I have been disdainful, envious, maybe admirative, passionate. I still am, partly or completely. I don't know, but I will try to. To be my own American until the end, and I know what I owe to America, to the English-speaking world. And some of my most joyful moments over the past few months have been when I've been able to speak in English in front of my camera. And yeah. But now I have sometimes, precisely that's the American mindset, sometimes one has to do what one likes a little bit less. It could be worse, or maybe not, but to speak in French, to confront my own negativity, actually. Yeah, so maybe I will still speak English publicly, or if I don't, I will speak French, but I've made enough play on words in English language. Yeah, I can do great ones in French as well, but I will try to find peace within and eventually everywhere else by struggling against myself, and yeah. I will fight for peace, my own peace, which is everyone else's as well, but it requires that I fight, and the current struggle that I have chosen is that of liberty. It's very difficult because it implies responsibility, but yeah. That's what I had to say. So thank you, and